We're going to make some exciting announcements about Vancouver while we're on this call. Arthur. Hello, Arthur. Yeah, a couple of names here that aren't familiar to me, so hope to see you guys introduce yourselves. Let us know where you're from, what you're working on, and hopefully by the end of this call, you're going to have more clarity on what you're working on. Haniel. Hey, Haniel. Haniel's been killing it. He's got his podcast going. It's been exciting to see. He did an episode with Talon recently. He had me on.
Impressive.
Liam. Hello, Liam. Haniel is in Brazil.
Interesting. I don't know. I knew a guy, I think from X. His name was Ishana or something. I think he was from Brazil or maybe like Argentina or something. But I don't know
Okay.
where he went. I think he like quit X for YouTube, but we'll see. I don't know like where he went.
Yeah, people do come and go sometimes on these platforms. Appear for a little while and then disappear back into busy life stuff for chapters of time.
Yeah.
Christian. Good day, Christian. Christian will be coming up to Vancouver in June. And he's
Sick.
going to put out his first Substack post soon. That's exciting.
What is it about? Or is that like hush hush and we can't?
Yeah. Can we get a sneak preview, a little teaser, Christian? I'm working on some new stuff as well. I'm excited. I'm trying to finding a new direction for my own personal brand. So Hussein's workshop is going to be very relevant to what I'm thinking about right now.
What is your next piece about? Is it also about AI and AGI?
No, I'm I'm reflecting more on my magic days, and so it'll be more psychology focused.
Interesting.
Yeah, psychology, drawing from the magic experience, but more applying to building social networks. So there's a lot that I'm realizing about blind spots that people tend to have because most people haven't really studied perception that much, and people have a tendency to what would be the word? To underestimate how much they're affected by cognitive biases, right? It's like, even when you learn about them, you start to think like, okay, now I'm aware.
Yeah.
But it's just something we're so susceptible to.
Yeah.
And so there's certain ways that you can overcome and account for the fact that cognitive biases are always affecting your perception. And if you account for those things, you can have a lot more success in different areas of life. And so I'm focusing on social success right now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Christian says it's...
Wait, it's an intro to my publication overthinking. That might...
Anxiety disguised.
Interesting.
Right on. Yeah, I say we should probably get started.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here, everybody. This is going to be a good one. I've been looking forward to this. Hussein actually started a little group about 8 months ago, maybe now. It was last summer, and he invited me to be part of it. And there was 5 of us to begin with, meeting basically on a weekly basis. And that was very fruitful. We've helped, nudge each other toward greater clarity on what we're all building. And I highly recommend people find little groups like that. Find the people you resonate with. Find people you want to be friends with who can help you calibrate and find out what are your strengths? What strengths should you double down on? What are your blind spots and weaknesses, or things that you really should work on? It just helps so much to have that, not only awareness. When you team up with people that way, you get to make use of their expertise. It's also just the accountability, right? Like you're getting their awareness, but you're getting the accountability to apply it. So you're regularly checking in on each other. Like, okay, you came to these realizations. Like, what have you done with that? Right. So it's been super fruitful, and it's a major part of why this event has come about. And this series of workshops is leading up to a big event in Vancouver, Canada. I see a couple of you here who are you already have your tickets. A couple of you are in Vancouver, and some people are flying in from Europe, from various states, from all over the world. And it's a 3-day long conference called the Future Proof Creator Summit. While this workshop is going on, I'll be leaving some comments in the chat to let you guys know where to go find out more about the summit. But get your tickets. During today, to go along with this workshop, we're going to offer tickets at 30% off. So if you use the code TRANSFORM in all capital letters at checkout, you get 30% off all ticket tiers. And we're going to spend 3 days with speakers like Dan Coe, Hussein, Kieran Drew, Taylin Simmons. Probably those names are familiar to some of you, but there's about 13 speakers speaking on topics from, how to be a multi-passionate creator, how to use writing to attract a loyal audience, how to do the inner work of entrepreneurship, facing your fears, facing your aspects of yourself that you don't necessarily want to face. So many aspects of how to build a personal brand and stay with it long enough to follow through and see real success with it, as well as how to build a really powerful social network. And you'll be in a room with potentially hundreds of other creators. So we're 2 months out from that. Yep. Go buy your ticket at thelivinginternet.com. But I'll comment more on that later. I'll leave some things in the chat. And I think we better just jump on in. Hussein's got something in store for us. So let's do it.
Awesome. Well, I even created a small presentation for everyone here. Like I tried to pull all the spots out, like leave nothing behind type stuff. But I'm very excited for today's call is because it's about like building your magnetic brand, right? And there's a 3-part structure to it. But the reason why I chose this topic is because every time I worked with my clients, whenever I would sign a new client and we would have our first call, and usually that call is like the longest, is because that's when they're most excited. They have a lot of like ambition and a lot of ideas. But after working with them for 2, 3, 4 months, they usually always tell me that this is like the most impactful thing that they've ever done. Like this is the starting point of their transformation, you could say, that they've seen with me, and it's something that has become a core principle and a core cornerstone in my content. And it's something that I always teach people as soon as it doesn't matter if I'm launching a cohort, I'm doing a community, I'm doing a live call, helping a friend out. This is usually where I would always start, because if you nail your branding, if you know this 3-part structure that I'm about to show you, then you can easily stand out from the crowd. You can grow exponentially fast, and you can write really good content from it. And you can also sign a lot of clients just by nailing this part. So everything that I'm gonna show you today can be directly applied. Directly applied to your content and then to your offer. If you just nail this, at the end, I might even share with you guys like a worksheet that you can fill out. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So like I said, there are 3 parts to this, right? There are 3 parts to making a personal brand. You have the customer avatar, you have your story, and then you have your topics that you want to write about. If you focus on the story and customer avatar, that's where you become relatable with your audience. Your topics and your customer avatar, the intersection of that is how you build authority. And then your story and your topics is your passion. And the intersection of all of these 3 is your winning personal brand. And so that is what we will be talking about today. So, oh, by the way, some warning. You might get flashbanged throughout the presentation with these white screens, basically. But so in part one, we'll do like the customer avatar, because there's a quote from Peter Thiel that where he says like you should always aim to build a monopoly because from a founder's perspective, competition destroys profits and limits growth. And the cool thing about the creator economy is you're basically building a monopoly if you know how to approach it the right way. And the way that you do that is by creating your own customer avatar that nobody can really compete on you with. So that is what we're trying to do. And something that has been a big transformation recently in my content and in my branding is that I realized that I don't really have a niche. What you truly have whenever you're creating content is a customer avatar. Because when you think about it, the idea of choosing a niche, right? People tell you that just so you can relate to one person. And so, how about you just go ahead and immediately start talking to that person and relating to them immediately and not really be like bogged down to a niche. So you just have a customer avatar essentially. You don't really have a niche. Niching down just like limits your growth. And one thing I will say this is that everything that you do with your branding starts with your customer avatar. Because if you know who you're writing to, finding new ideas become easier for you, because when you know who you're writing and who you're creating for, well, guess what? You know their pain points, you know their dreams, you know their hopes, you know their struggles. And so when you have that person in mind, you can just start writing to them as a human being, and you start relating to them. Second point is that your audience grows much faster because you can reach that person directly, where you are the best suited person to help that customer avatar. People will immediately start following you because you can relate to them better than anyone else can. And people follow people they like. And so if you can make your customer avatar feel seen, heard, and understood just by simply knowing their problems, those people will start gravitating towards you, and they will consume every single piece of content that you write. They will binge watch your news, like binge read your newsletters. They will watch all of your videos if you have videos. They will read and like every single tweet that you have. And that is simply just by really knowing who you're writing to. You also, when the third thing is that signing clients become a piece of cake because they already know you and you already know what they're struggling for. That means you know what they really want. You have the painkiller to their problem, right? And so this allows you to easily create offers that directly speak to them. And when they see it, they are just ready to buy from you because they trust you, they know you, they like you, they've seen your work in the past and they want to become you basically. And so once they have an offer, they just see it as a no-brainer, and they choose to work with you. Because the thing is about the creator economy, it's actually a trust economy. The creator that has the most amount of trust built with their audience is the person who ends up winning at the end. And I will get to that later, like what I mean by that. But you always want to think whenever you're writing content, whenever you're speaking to your audience. Maybe I'm delivering this live call with you, to you guys, right? Um, the entire point of doing these calls, of me speaking to you, and maybe writing a newsletter that is a how-to and giving you a free guide, the entire point is to just build trust with you, so that in the future you'll end up working with me. Kind of like narcissistic, but hey, like that's how we work. That's how basically every creator works. We build trust, and then that trust leads into revenue. And so, who do you want to be creating content for? So, who is your customer avatar? Well, for me, I know, at least for me, myself, and for my brand, I have two people that I really work with, or like I always write to. So I have Julian and I have Hussein. And actually, you know what? I'll show you like even what I do for them, right? Let me just bring up my Eden real quick. So I have like my own customer avatars. just so you know, like how much time I've spent creating my own customer avatar and getting to know them. By the way, I wish I was as good looking as this person. It was AI. It wasn't really me. But for example, like I know I've written everything about these two people basically, and I have a running document of everything that they want, and I know everything about their lives. So it's like who they are, what is their story, what do they look like. I have Hussein, who is 27 years old. He's still in his job. He hates it and he wants to quit. He wants to run his own successful business. The second one is Julian, 21, still in college, studies engineering. I know what they're passionate about. I know Julian what he is passionate about as well. So Julian loves creative work and fitness. Hussein is obsessed with fitness and self improvement. I know their goals, I know their dreams, I know their deepest fears. I know everything about them. And so whenever I start writing my content, even my emails, it usually starts with, hey, Hussein, hey, Julian, or like, what's up, Julian? What's up, Hussein? And I start writing to them because even when I am delivering this call, the person I had in mind was this guy, Julian. And even though I'm speaking to you right now directly, in my head, I am speaking to Julian, the guy who is still in college, who wants to build his own business and doesn't want to get a job. And by extension, because you guys relate to Julian or you relate to Hussein, I get to influence you and I get to build trust with you, and you actually enjoy consuming my content and you start following me. And that is really the power of the creator economy and knowing who your customer avatar is. And so when you're doing this exercise that I'll give you at the end of the call of creating your own customer avatar, is that you want to be able to read their mind. And so in that exercise that I just showed you, I want you to spend some time with it. Like I want you to really think about their story, think about their problems, their struggles, their fears, their dreams, passion, and interests, and write everything about them. Like for example, if I bring up my example, right? Let's say, for example, Hussein. Hussein is still in 27, he's still in his job. He hates it. He loves all of this. He thinks like he wants to max out his stats, as cringy as it sounds. What else? He's scared that he'll never be able to drive, like buy a home, drive his dream car, everything, right? He's seen like a bit of success, but nothing really significant. The same thing with Julian, like Julian making over 30K, like that's one of his goals. He has these achievements. The thing is about them, like about these examples, is that those are actually my story. And so I just turned my story into my own customer avatar. I just changed how they look, basically, or like I gave them slightly different stories. And so your customer avatar is just a personified version of your own stories that you keep telling yourself, and you just have them in a clear way. And so I can't really tell you if you've done the exercise correctly or not. So the only thing I can give you like advice on if you know or like how to know if you've nailed this is, one, how do you feel about it? So can you relate to their pains, to their dreams, to their hopes, to their struggles? Do you actually get what they're or like what they're going through? If you don't really get their pain points, then you haven't really gotten to know them. I want you, like I said, spend a few hours maybe on this. I know a lot of people try to AI this process, but honestly, like the best thing I can tell you is to just go through this process yourself and to really get to know them. The second thing is, and this is a really good indicator, is would you be excited to see them in your programs? Like if, for example, Hussein or Julian, one of them have joined one of my programs, or me seeing them under my comment section, I'd be ecstatic to see them. It's because, hey, I've actually attracted my dream customer or like my dream avatar, my customer avatar. And so if you're happy that you are seeing that type of person in your, like underneath your comment section or inside of one of your programs, then you've nailed this exercise. The second part, sorry by the way for the flashbangs, there's no pre-warning on it, so just deal with it. Okay, I'm joking. So the second part is your story, right? Your origin story. Because the reason why you need to have a good origin story is because you are your own greatest case study. I've written like hundreds of emails, right? Some of them are like case studies of my previous clients where they've seen amazing results. And some of them is just like me speaking about myself. And from anecdotal experience, I can tell you the emails that have performed the best, that have led me to the most amount of sales, to the most amount of leads, to the most amount of clients, are the emails when I spoke about myself and my story, and people could relate to me. And that's what made people sign with me. Even though the results that I have achieved for myself is much smaller compared to what I've given to my clients, people still convert the most whenever I talk about myself. And so in your brand, you are your own greatest case study. No, like there's not any client, there's no client that you can help and you can help a client make $1 million a year. You are still your own greatest case study because your audience see themselves in you. You are the hero of your own brand. You are the guy that they trust to lead their lives. And so uh, most of my clients, when I give them like these slides and whenever I'm talking about my origin story, always tell them this, like, you didn't buy from me because I'm the best at something. You didn't buy from me because I did some crazy marketing strategy of like 5-6 weeks or like 6 months in advance, and I'm doing all of these crazy upsells and downsells and cross sells and then limited time offers. Like, I don't do any of that. I don't even have insane copy inside of my landing pages. I don't have a lot of testimonials, at least like walls of hundreds of thousands of testimonials. I don't have a ton of case studies like hundreds like other people. The reason why everyone bought from me and the reason why everyone will buy from you in the future is because they trust you enough. They trust you to say, hey, you know what, Tanya? Hey, you know what, Kurt, Sam? Uh, you're the person that I trust to lead me into and the person that I trust to help me achieve my goals. That is when you actually make your own sales. And so, yeah, people will buy from you because they see you as trustworthy, basically. And so your story is what will set you apart from the rest of the competition. It is how you create your niche of one, like everyone keeps telling you. Is because there are no two experiences that are the same. Even though like you would see two people who have gone something similar, but guess what? Both of them have two wildly different perspectives, two wildly different approaches, and two wildly different lessons learned from from their experience. Even though it's something similar that they have gone through, but everyone is just like uh, different. Like every human is different. Like there's a quote from Naval where he says like there are 8 billion people on this world, and I hope one day to see 8 billion one-person companies. Like that, he basically nailed it with that quote. And so if your entire brand is revolved around I am the best at something, it's not really a brand anymore, because there will come a time where you can't outrun time and you are no longer as sharp as you used to, because you age. Maybe you didn't keep up with the times, and then you started slacking, and then you're no longer the best. And if you're no longer the best, then why should anyone really work with you? If you're always thinking of like, hey, I need to be number one, then that means you will see everyone else in that space, in a similar space as you, as a threat. You start living in survival mode. And so when you live in survival mode, you're always like on the lookout. You cannot be creative. You cannot really help people, and you don't really want to teach anything in your content because you think someday that someone else will take what you've taught them and become better than you and then take your top spot. And so survival mode isn't a place that you want to be living in. It's not a place that you really should try to operate your brand from. If anything, like, don't try to be the best. Your brand shouldn't be I am the best at something. It should be like I'm the most unique, or like this is my story and this is why you should buy from me, or like I know your stuff. Basically, I know your story better than anyone else. I can relate to your pain points better than anyone else. That is what you really want to do. And so you want to be the only, right? This is why we really share our origin stories, because and the way that you become the only is by sharing your story, because nobody can be better at being you than you know, like nobody can tell your story better than you can. Nobody has lived the same uh, or has gone through the same experiences as you have. And so your story is your most unique part. And I see a lot of people just throw their story like in the bin and they never talk about it, you know, and it's just insane whenever I see it. Because whenever I look at the people that I've worked with, the mentors that I've chosen to work with, it's literally because of their origin story. I looked at their story and I was like, you know what? I really want to work with this guy. This person gets me. And the mentors that I've worked with who I didn't really relate with their origin story, I didn't really see a lot of results with them. And so if you want to sign amazing clients and you want to give them amazing results, your story is going to be that filter, basically. And so a good story should be relatable. A good origin story, I should say, should be relatable. It should make people look up to you, and it should motivate your audience as well to take action. And so you become relatable when you meet them where they're at. And this is a copywriting principle that you can really just like hammer in. I cannot emphasize this enough, but you always want to meet your audience where they're at. So what is the stage that they're in right now, and speak to them directly when as if they are in that stage, right? You become looked up to when they see you where you are right now. So what are the results that you've seen? And then you motivate them by showing them where you want to be, or like where you want to go in the future. And so if you want to see like a timeline and everything, so you have like where you were before, so you can craft your own origin story, and you'll have this as well inside the worksheet. So you have this, right, to craft your origin story. So where were you before? What was your upbringing like? What were your failures, your stories, the little moments that have shaped you to become the person that you are today? And then you have the first inflection point, right? What made you want to start? Like, why did you start traveling on this journey? You know, what made you want to start traveling on this path? What were your goals? What were you hoping to achieve? And then in every single story, there should be a rock bottom. And during your journey on the way to where you are right now and where you want to be in the future, you must have reached rock bottom. And so, how did rock bottom feel during that moment? How did you get there? What were you going to do? Were you going to quit, or were you angry all the time? Were you depressed? What was it like? And then you have the second inflection point, or like the aha moment, where everything starts changing. And so, what was that missing piece of the from the puzzle? Uh, what changed? What did you realize? What was the mistake that you were making? Or like, did you, I don't know, hear a piece of information from someone and that was like the missing key to everything that you ever wanted? And then where you are right now. So this is how you become um, basically like looked up to, right? So what kind of results do you have right now? What have you seen? How does life look like? How do you feel and act? And then you inspire people by showing them where you want to go in the future. So what is your end goal? Why are you leading people there? Where are you leading people towards? And so that is basically that is how you create your own origin story. And so I have my own example here. I don't want to go super long. I think we've only been like 20 minutes ish. So I think we're on good pace. But basically, this is my origin story, right? So back in 2019 till 2022, I was studying engineering. I had a 3.6 GPA. I was pretty good. But then I landed my first internship when I was at college in my third year of college. I started working for one of the biggest developers in Dubai, and I got to work on these amazing mega projects in Dubai, like the ones that you see in the news, like, oh, $1 billion project or like a $500 million project. And it's insane, like the scale of these projects and the engineers, everyone is just like a genius that works there. But whenever I spoke to those engineers, so whether they were from my company or the other companies, from the other construction companies, a lot of them were just like depressed. The engineers were just depressed. They hated their jobs, and they were like in their early 40s or like 50s, and so they weren't old. And when I saw that, I was like, that's gonna be me in the future. And those engineers, by the way, they weren't making millions of dollars every year like I was hoping. They were making good money, that's for sure, but not anywhere near close to what I wanted to make. So I realized that getting a traditional job was basically going to be my worst nightmare. And so I started, since I got back from that internship, I started writing online, and I started like learning social media marketing agencies, SEO. I tried to do a bit of affiliate marketing. I failed at all of them. Then I discovered the one person business, and I started writing online. So from the summer of like, or I would say beginning of 2023, I would say, or like midway of 2023, I started writing online, at least one person business, this business that I am running right now. And all the way up until like 2024, midway of like 2024, I did not see any results really. I was just like convinced that I will be average for the rest of my life. And then when I graduated from 2024, I got a job, and I enrolled into a higher education program. So right now I'm doing my master's as well. And I was also writing at the same time. So I was up by 5, back home at 11 p.m. And I was just like living in hell. And in 2024, when I was about to quit, basically, um, I found my aha moment. And I realized that my biggest problem was scattered focus. Because I was trying to write tweets, I was trying to write storytelling posts, I was engaging a bit, I was writing semi-good threads, trying to create my own offer, but not really seeing any progress. And so in 2024, or like in October, I just said, you know what? If I don't really reach like 1,000 followers, because after like 16 months, I was still at 800 followers. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna quit if I don't get to 1,000 followers by the end of October. And surely enough, within a week of just like going all in with a thread, I went viral and gained 2,000 followers overnight. And then it just kept on happening until right now where I have. And so this is me right now, have 80 million plus views, 27K followers right now, made more than 60K in the last 13 months just from writing online and coaching people. And I only work like, I don't know, 3, 4, maybe 5 hours, because if I'm feeling extremely creative. And I'm still in college, so I'm still doing my master's, still studying and doing engineering and stuff. And in the future, I hope to build and scale my business to 1 million plus per year. One of my dream goals, I don't know why, but when I was like 12 or something, I was like, you know what? By the time I'm 30, I'll be driving a Bentley GT Continental. I don't know why I chose that car, but I made a promise to basically I swore to myself when I was 12 that I will drive that car, and now I have to fulfill that promise. Um, so I basically shot myself in the foot, you could say. But yeah, my goal is also to like help others build their own personal brands and find their own unique unfair advantages. And so what you can do is just like you want to find stories that can help you relate to your customer avatar. This is why we've done the customer avatar first, then the origin story is so that you can relate to that customer avatar. And so in the third pillar, the final pillar, basically, which is like the topics that you'll be writing about, is your brand pillar. So what are the content pillars that you want to be writing about? As a person, if you're here, that means you probably have many different interests. Your customer avatar has also many different interests, and niching down just feels inauthentic because you're more than just a niche. You're more than just writing. You're more than just psychology or business or marketing or sales or philosophy or fit, like anything. You're more than that. You're probably a collection of them all. And so this is why I hate the idea of niching down. If you couldn't tell from this entire workshop. But the idea of niching down just never really made sense because, like I said, you have many different interests. Your customer avatar has many different interests. So you consume content that are widely broad, like there's a broad spectrum of content that you consume basically. And niching down really just makes you a glorified search engine. And so to create your own niche, or like to find your content pillars, basically, you want to choose like 2 to 3 broad topics that encompass uh, the topics that you want to be writing about consistently. You want to be creating beginner level content if you're on social media, because even experts need to be reminded of beginner level stuff, because the beginner level content brings people back to square one basically, and they remember like, oh, there are certain principles that I forgot. Maybe it's because like they were too in tuned, or like they basically lost focus or whatnot. But 90% of people on social media are beginners, so you're targeting a huge audience. That's why you want to create beginner level content. And also, to create your own niche, you must tell your own story, because that is the most unique part of your own brand. Like nobody can copy your story. And I don't know if I'm allowed to swear here, but to create a niche, you must also like fuck around and find out what works and what doesn't. Some people would never really take any action to start, and I think that is just like the worst thing that you can do, because the only way you will know that something works or doesn't work is if you take action and basically let the market decide for what they want. And speaking about like letting the market decide, is you want to double down on the few topics that people know you for. So the topics that really do well for you, double down on them, speak more about them. And so this is like 3 broad domains that you can talk about. So you have a money making domain, that thing that you will be monetizing in the future. You have a curiosity driven domain. So that is a domain that you really like and you really want to be part of your everyday life. And then you have a self-development domain, which is a domain that will help you build your own business and to actualize the vision that you have. And then you can break down each of those domains into subtopics, and then you can go even deeper, where you can divide them into subtopics for idea generations. And you can create like a list of mentors in each one, because if you're a beginner, if you don't really have an audience, people don't care about you. As harsh as that sounds, people care about famous people. And so if you can write about someone who is famous within that domain that you are trying to write about, then people will pay attention to you. And so you can use a bit of authority by association to build your audience and to basically get that kickstart. So if you're curious about how my brand domains look like, I have like one person business. So what I help people with, it's mainly like building an audience. Now I'm branching out into also like monetizing. So I have like one person business where I teach people, like, at least in my content, is business, sales, marketing, offer creation. And if we break that into like even subtopics, we have writing, we have audience building, we have monetization, we have launching, we have personal branding, and then some basically like list of mentors. So I have a bunch of books behind me. You can't really see them, but so Naval Ravikant is a huge mentor. And a huge source of inspiration for my content. Actually, Tim Ferriss as well is a huge source of inspiration. Danko, everyone knows him. Justin Welch also, everyone knows him. And then I have health because I'm a fitness junkie. I like to train like 6 to 8 times a week, uh, and it's part of my everyday life. And so I always talk about health, even my threads. Like yes, the one I posted yesterday or like a few days ago, and even today, it's always about health. I talk about so I can talk about endurance training, resistance training, recovery, mental health, and there are like even more ideas that I can mention, like zone 2 cardio, VO2 max, workouts, sleep, supplements, depression, anxiety, any mental health uh, topics really. And some people that I can talk about: Andrew Huberman, Matthew Walker, Brian Johnson, Gabor Mate, Dr. K, and self improvement really, because I realized that I have a big problem with focus, with limiting beliefs. At least I didn't know that I had them. Now I know I have them, and I'm working towards like improving. So I can talk about this is why I have self improvement as my self development domain, as productivity, spirituality, deep work, habits, and some topics I can mention is like flow state. I can talk about dopamine. I can talk about goal setting, consciousness, attention, and focus, and some famous people like Mihai, Anthony DeMello, Maxwell Maltz, the guy who wrote Psycho-Cybernetics, Stephen Kotler as well, with The Art of Impossible. And so those people become basically my source of inspiration and ideas whenever I'm trying to write about those topics. I would usually go ahead and reference those people and see what they've done, and I can uh, basically like use for my own content. And so one last thing I will say before I end today's call. I don't know if I was going super long or super fast, but hopefully you guys were enjoying today's workshop. Um, but one thing I want to say is that your goal should be always to give value unconditionally. And so what does that mean? It means give away your systems, give away your frameworks, give away your solutions, give away your entire philosophy, everything, give it away for people, because only 1% of your audience will ever buy from you. And to some people, depending on if you're in the group of people who see like the glass is half empty, that would be a bad thing. But look at it from the positive side, right? That means you get to help 99% of your audience for free. And for that 1% of your audience who do actually end up buying from you, you get to over deliver and build massive trust with those people. And when they do sign with you, they do it because they know you're the guy. They know you're the main person and that you are the guy who will help them succeed. And they do it because they trust you enough to do that. And so always give value unconditionally. Don't think like, oh, I don't really want to give away my systems because people won't have a reason to buy from me. If your monetization strategy is information, like giving people information, then you're doing it wrong. Your monetization strategy should be speed, assurance, and certainty. And the only way people can get that is through personalized feedback. And so that is why you want to be giving value unconditionally. The personalized feedback is the most important aspect of your offer. And so, with that said, I know I kind of went into a bit of monetization, but right now the floor is yours, guys. So, there are any questions, Jesse? If you want to do stuff, let me know.
Yeah, feel free to type your questions in the chat, you guys. That's some pretty solid stuff. It's like some of it I've heard Hussein tell me this stuff before, and you get distracted by all the other ideas you have about how you should do things. But these are like fundamental realities. And what he just said about the idea that like you should give away so much of what you know. You should give away your frameworks, your knowledge, your understanding, the concepts that are significant to you, and don't feel like there's some kind of scarcity problem. Like, oh, if I give it all away for free, then who's going to buy it? That's not the point. Like, the point is that you build the trust, because someone wants to be taken all the way. Someone wants to be taken through the resistance to actually applying and getting the results. So then they're going to want to work with you, right? Like, they can get the information. We live in the age of information, right? You can find all the information, all the books you could possibly want to read. You can access them for free. But what you can't access for free is the actual, input from a person who's done it, and giving input on your actual experience, helping to guide you to apply it. So I told Dan Koh when I met him, and I was following his newsletters and YouTube videos for only like 7 months by then. And I was influenced by his philosophy about writing and personal branding. So I did some writing that stood out to him. And so we were talking, we went on a hike, and I said, Dan, I haven't even bought any of your courses yet. And I was sort of making a joke, but also making a point. Like, this is very interesting. You've given so much for free. You've packaged so much high value stuff in your free content that it's taken me 7 months to finally get to the point where I'm like, okay, now give me the real meat. Give me the focused, condensed version that I can really apply. Because like, you've given me all these mindset shifts, awareness shifts for free. Now I trust you. My life has shifted. My awareness has shifted because of what you've given out for free. So, and the guy's made millions of dollars, right? So it clearly doesn't present a problem to create a lot of content that gives all your stuff away, right? It just builds trust. So I really like that mindset. That's going to stick with me when I think about, okay, who's my target audience? Who's my customer avatar? And how can I just do everything I possibly can to try to help them? Like you said, 99% of your audience, you get to help them for free, and that's great. And you can build wealth. So that's cool. We've got some questions here. Did you see Haniel's question there?
Yeah, like, how do you not get distracted?
Yeah.
How do you not get distracted? I would say, like, can you be more specific? I will answer the second part of the question, which is like, you create this once and you never look back or implement. The really cool thing, especially about the customer avatar, I will say, is because so much time that you spend creating that worksheet or like creating your own customer avatar, and you would think so deeply about it, is every time, or like, it will be engraved in your head. And every time you write your own content, you're like, would my customer avatar read this? Basically, is your question. And like I said, everything in your content starts, or like in your brand, starts with your customer avatar. So whenever you write your own stories or like you write your own content, the first thing should be like, would my customer avatar relate to this problem that I am trying to address? The second part is, can I tell a personal story so that my customer avatar doesn't just relate to the problem, but also relates to me and sees me as the person who can guide them in the future. And so those two things basically those will always be the cornerstone for your content and maybe even for your offer. It's just like, would my customer avatar learn this or like want this? If the answer is yes, then you keep on going. If the answer is no, then I would say, like, don't write it. But you're in the writing space. If you want to be creative and you get a wild idea, it's up to you. I can't really stop you.
So maybe I could come up with a quick example for you to help me with, Hussein. So
Cool.
as I'm sort of developing a new avatar now, because I've talked on different topics. You know, I ran my Creative Wayfinder course at one point, which was about unblocking your creativity. And now my customer avatar is really people who maybe are relatively introverted, probably quite intelligent, but struggle socially. They struggle to have a strong friend circle. They might
Mhm.
struggle to find partnerships, like business alliances, or maybe they want to have like an accountability group that stays together. And they struggle to really, even digitally, network and find those strong connections. Maybe they struggle to get dates if they want a partner and they want long-term relationships. Um, so would I can tell my story, right? I can look
Yeah.
at my own story and see like, okay, here's the area I struggled in these areas, and I could probably come up with some funny, embarrassing examples, and
Yeah.
people relate, right? Like if it's a little embarrassing, that's probably good. Um, how much would you say, like, let's say I'm writing my next newsletter,
Mhm.
uh, should you really narrow it down to like one or two pain points? Like, should I avoid trying to come up with too many examples of like the struggles, or do you think it's good just to kind of outline like, you know, this this problem brings about several problems?
Yeah. Good question. I think like if you're trying to write a newsletter, especially because newsletters are, from my experience, they're a very creative process and it's very hard to tell people it's X, Y, Z. Um, so with newsletters, what I usually do, I start off with like a big idea. So what is the big problem that I want to address with my content? Or like what is the big idea? And I would ask myself, what is the big problem of that idea? And then you can break that big problem into, let's say, 3 to 4 sections, and each section would have its own problems within it that you can address. But to answer like your examples parts, is what I like or what I like to try to do is it's what I try to give an example to prove a point. So you would say introverts are, or I'll give you a recent example from my newsletter where I said um, like people can use negative energy to, or like negative motivation to almost achieve anything, or like to achieve like the impossible. And I use an example of like, hey, we all know the story of like a guy approaches a girl, tries to go on a date, girl rejects him because he's not successful. She calls him broke, he's ugly, he's skinny, he's fat, whatever. And then the guy feels ashamed. Then he uses that shame and guilt and like embarrassment to start going to the gym, building a business. Now he's like the wealthiest guy in town. And he did all of that where he never thought he could achieve it, but he did that just to prove a point and to show her like, hey, I am successful, I am worthy of love or whatever. But the way I like to approach examples is you make a claim, or like you say something and then you try to back it up with an example. Usually one example is more than enough. I wouldn't go super like give multiple examples in a row. Um, so one example per paragraph or like per section is, I think, a good rule of thumb.
Cool.
Or
Thank you.
maybe like it could be like a personal story as well, to prove your own point.
Yeah. Here's why it's a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, we got Logan of Medicine of Mankind asking, I think of content overlapping with what I need for myself each week. Need to talk something out with a friend. I could journal on that topic, creating space for that part of me, and then publish it. If it's only for others, you will burn it.
You will burn out. Wait,
Oh, yeah.
can you, Medicine of Mankind, can you like rewrite that question? Because I kind of got lost. Maybe I'm dumb or something.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure what the question is either. Content overlapping with what I need for myself
I think
each
it's
week.
like a good question, but I just can't understand it.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I see.
Okay. Cool. By the way, if anyone has a question, just like feel free. I don't bite. I swear to God.
I bet Matt Buffa has a question. Matt, we are. I know you came in here late, so I'm not sure if you can see the workshop link that was shared, but here it is again. So yeah, to me, it makes a lot of sense that if you get a lot of clarity on who your avatar is, then you don't have to feel like you're like solving some mysterious problem that you're not sure if someone has. You're not sort of just being vague about it. You're actually looking like, oh, here's someone who literally has a very specific problem and that I've solved.
Yeah.
Then it's like, oh, how would I give advice to that friend? Or how would I, maybe how would I suggest someone else gives them advice almost? Because it's like sometimes a friend, it can be tricky because you might just try to like get to the point. But when you're building a brand, you're sort of you're painting a picture of the problem. So you're creating that sense of relatability. Like, look, I understand you. I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And then you're sort of proving that, like, here's where you're coming from, right? And then if it's the right target audience, then people will feel like, oh yeah, like you clearly understand my problem and better than I do maybe, right? And then it's like, I feel like that's part of the tension it creates. If they feel like you understand their problem better than they do, then they're like, okay, this guy must have a solution, right? So it's like, okay, I'm going to keep reading. I'm going to keep on listening. How do you go about intentionally networking as a beginner, and how important is it? Yeah, Hussein, you got pretty embedded with some good networks fairly early on, right? What's your approach been to that?
One is you don't really want to network. Like your goal isn't networking, as controversial or like as I think it's like controversial is the right word. The reason I say that your goal shouldn't be to network, especially if you're a beginner, is because usually you don't really have anything to give to people that you're trying to network with. I'm speaking like you're trying to network with someone who's, I don't know, who has thousands of followers, maybe hundreds of thousands, maybe is making a few million. And so trying to network with them immediately isn't really the right way to go about it. Your goal should be is to somehow try to get in their circle and trying to prove your worth to them that, hey, I have something of value, whether it's like perspective, maybe you're good at a skill and you can help them solve something. But the way, for example, I would say the way I networked my way with Kieran when I only had less than even 500 followers is I was part of his like paid newsletter, and in his paid newsletter, every month he would do one Q&A call where he would roast people's contents. And I would look forward to that Q&A call every single month. And I would make sure like I would show up to that call and I would always open my mic and I would always speak. And basically Kieran would see like my writing is improving every single month. And so through time, it's just like Kieran got to know me and he was like, he started following me, we started DMing. And then eventually when he opened his cohort, I even secured my seat like 2 months before everyone knew about his cohort. So like being in close proximity to them, showing them that, hey, you actually can improve, that you are taking this seriously, that you can provide something of value is a good way of networking. I would say once you do network your way with them, don't pester them. So don't be extremely needy. The way that you want to approach it is treat them like they're human beings. If you find like a cool podcast and you know a certain person would like that, send them that podcast and tell them, hey, by the way, these are some of the ideas I enjoyed from the podcast and it's very related to what you're trying to do. Thought you'd enjoy it. Just do things like that, like do them favors for no reason. People love getting free stuff, so you can do that, that's amazing. That's how it probably approach networking if I was starting from scratch.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that because I think it's a really good example Hussein used of showing up on Kieran Drew's calls and like allowing himself to be used as an example, right? Like letting his content be roasted publicly. That meant he was actually adding value for Kieran, even though he maybe didn't have something to teach. Like he wasn't teaching Kieran something. He wasn't adding value in that sense. He was allowing Kieran to use him in a sense, like to utilize his presence in a valuable way. And on that note, I would also say, if you want to network with people who are sort of, let's say, beyond you in a certain area, maybe they're way beyond you, maybe they've got a lot of financial success, maybe they have a big audience. People do want to help others, but they have limited bandwidth, and they are generally looking to spend their energy in a way that does have a return. Like everyone's selfish. Don't see that as a negative thing. We are selfish beings because we need to know whose mouth to put food in. So gratitude is huge because actually people just feel really good when someone they helped is genuinely grateful, but not just like saying thank you, because gratitude is active. Gratitude is an active force, and it means you're really wrestling with what they have offered you and applying it. So like I've had mentors in a lot of areas, and I've told some of these stories elsewhere. My mentor in magic, mentor in sales early on. In magic, he charged for the first magic lesson because for all he knew, I was just some kid who wanted his secrets, right? Which I was just a value taker. I was just looking to take value from him. But when he saw that I was genuinely interested, not just in knowing the secrets, but in performing the art of magic and entering into that field, he thought, oh, this could be fun. This kid actually wants to learn and absorb what I pour into him. And so he said, how about I come over every week for free and teach you magic? And he did that for about a year, right? So that's, theoretically tens of thousands of dollars of mentorship. And that's the same when I first got into sales. It's the same in several fields that I've got into, where basically I get tens of thousands of dollars of free mentorship because I've framed it in such a way that they feel it's truly benefiting them, partly because they see a grateful student. Sometimes I maybe even help them expand their network or grow their audience in one way or another. I don't have a huge audience, so in the digital world, I don't have that kind of leverage exactly. But I started a podcast, and so Haniel, who asked the question here about networking, also recently started a podcast. And I would say really lean into that. That's a huge opportunity you've created for yourself because people want to guest on podcasts. Partly it's like an honor to be invited. It's like, oh, you appreciate my stuff. That's cool. And you're giving them a platform to expand their reach to probably some new people. So yeah, just being really grateful and respecting people's time, right? Like knowing that if you send them a lot of long messages, that's going to be kind of annoying to a lot of people, right? Depending on the context. You've got to build up a lot of rapport before you can start sending some kind of long message or taking a lot of their time. We have a few more here. Mahim, writing essay is enjoyable but can be hard. Sharing it for introverts, what would you suggest? Should we still share it, or is it okay, good enough to keep it private until it feels comfortable? Well,
my suggestion is that you'll never actually feel comfortable sharing anything, especially if you're trying to share your origin story.
Yeah,
that's never really comfortable. It's something that you just gotta build experience with, really. You can, for example, try to actually, let me take this approach. If you're introverted, you should actually be posting online. Like, I don't care what you say, because what other medium would you take or use as an introvert? Like, you're not gonna do video because you feel I don't know, you feel awkward on camera. Maybe I feel awkward on camera right now. You're not really gonna record your voice because you feel like it's cringy and you want to stay mysterious. But writing, nobody can really judge you on that. Nobody can make fun of you. You can even be a faceless account, and people just read about your ideas, and ideas are universal. And ideas actually spread a lot faster than just like any other form of content. So I do think you should be posting them online. And just the way that you are for some reason gravitated, feel like a pull towards that idea, millions of other people also feel pulled towards that same idea. And by you not actually posting that idea and making a difference and connecting and reaching those people, then you are like ripping, like you are doing them a disservice. You're doing a disservice to the world. And so I think you should always be writing, even if it feels uncomfortable, because your life is legit determined just like by how much uncertainty and how much discomfort you're willing to embrace in life. More uncertainty you're willing to handle, the better the results you will see in your life.
Nice. You got time for a couple more questions here, Hussein?
Yeah, for sure.
Matt Bufa is asking, he says, I have a problem that when I write, I connect too many ideas that could be relevant, but don't necessarily create a cohesive narrative.
Good question. I have a lot of ideas as well whenever I'm writing my own content.
Like a hydra, you cut off one head and there's 10 more.
Yeah, legit. I struggle with this. So I think for me, I know it's very easy to go super long and like keep adding more ideas. Once I see like, oh, it's been like 14 days, or like I'm getting close to like 5,000 words for a newsletter, I'm like, okay, let's stop adding more ideas. And sometimes you really have to be like honest with yourself and like ask yourself, does this really relate to my idea, or like am I making, or like am I overreaching with what I'm trying to do? If it feels like you are overreaching, then it's a sign that you shouldn't at least keep it in this newsletter. Maybe you can write it, or like you can rewrite the newsletter, maybe change a few parts, and add that new idea that you wanted. But for me, I try to keep like 4 sections in general. So you have the hook, the first 2 to 500 words, then painting the problem, or like showing people the problem. There, it's like another 5 to 1,000 words. Then you can either talk about the solution as a philosophy, as a point of view, or like the mechanism of why that solution works. Because if you don't give people a reason to care, then they wouldn't really apply the solution. So you can give them the big picture of like your philosophy of your solution, and that could be like another 5 to 1,000 words. Then you can give them like the last section, which is the how to, and that is around like 5 to 1,000 words. Maybe it might be even like 300 words. So hopefully, Matt, that made sense. That's usually how I approach my newsletters as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have been inspired by Dan Coe, who somehow manages to write all these 5,000 word letters that do keep all the ideas relevant to like one big idea. But that doesn't mean, I think for a lot of us, that'll be very discouraging, because a lot of people will not read your 5,000 words if you haven't practiced. So it's a lot more encouraging to write a 1,000 word letter that stays focused on one big idea, holds the tension all the way through, so that people will read it and comment on it.
And it's always, I will say this, is like if you feel like you haven't done a good job in that newsletter, then there's nothing stopping you on rewriting it and posting it again, and then like next week, just like changing the parts that you didn't really like, and adding the ones that you did want. That's what I usually do. Like whenever I'm writing about the one person business in my newsletters, is I'm writing about the same thing, just like some ideas I want to add, or like new ideas that I thought could have been better, and so I changed those.
Yeah.
Is there any more questions? I'm trying to look.
Don't think I see any new ones. But yeah, guys, the recording will be up. You can rewatch the recording. You can check out the link to the template, the worksheet that Hussein gave us will be linked with the recording. And you can ask more questions in the comments there, and I'll give my 2 cents. And I think Hussein will be quite happy to also be responsive to some questions. So stay in touch. And there's more workshops coming. Next Saturday, we have Logan Quinn, who was here on this call, Medicine of Mankind. And he'll be giving us a very interesting spin on content creation from the perspective of a filmmaker, how to actually use a deeper understanding of the structure of a narrative and sort of the hero's journey, mythopoetic lens to create a narrative arc in your work that really attracts people on a deeper level, with that sort of aesthetic of storytelling. But I'll let him explain more from his perspective exactly what his workshop will be. That'll be next Saturday, same time as this one. After that, we have Jack Moses. And the week after that, we have Dan Goldfield. So lots more cool free workshops coming up. And again, Vancouver is happening. The Future Proof Creator Summit, June 5th to 7th. And we're all going to be gathered at the Sheraton Vancouver Airport Hotel, nice and close to the airport. So if you're at a distance, check out the cost of flights, get your passport ready. Feel free to send me a direct message if you have questions, and go to thelivinginternet.com to see all the details of the event. And we'll hope to see you there. If it's a stretch to make it to Vancouver, which is understandable, there are virtual tickets, and it will be an interactive experience. You'll get to interact in the chat. You'll get to submit questions for the speakers and have your questions answered live. But if you can make it in person, there's really nothing like shaking hands and making eye contact with the people you've met online in person. It's a different story. Like even some of the speakers at the event I've met now. Dan, of course. I've met Brian Meyerhofer, Kimi Anora, and David Morin. And we had already built some connection, but having met them in person and spent real time with them, now we both have this stronger feeling like this is a friend. This is someone I want to keep up with. This is someone I want to help. And there's just a different level of support and camaraderie that comes from that. So I would highly recommend coming if you can. And thanks, Hussein. This was super valuable to me. I see a lot of people saying that it was insightful. So
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me. It was awesome.
Of course. Okay, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Goodbye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.